Yo, welcome back to an exciting episode tonight. We are on book 117. We want to talk about moonwalking with Einstein. And, you'd be surprised by what this means. So I'll let Chris explain it a little bit
Yeah,
and let's discuss it.
yeah. This is one of my hidden gems of this whole entire journey. Actually, this is one of my favorite reflections that we've covered thus far as well. Um, uh, this is before I gave myself license to write multiple reflections that weren't like my top five favorites.
Hmm.
I wish I may go back and write a couple extra ones from this one just because there were so many things that I wanted to write about this book. But I really loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. The book's called Moonwalking with Einstein, by Joshua Foer, who actually is the brother of Jonathan Safran Foer, who wrote Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, and a few other books. Like I think we already did Extremely
Mm.
Loud and Incredibly Close about Oscar and 9/11 and the whole every quest begins with pain. Every
Hmm.
epic quest begins with pain kind of thing. Anyway, this is his
Right.
brother that wrote this book, so it's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
it's kind of cool. This book is the title is called Moonwalking with Einstein: The Art and Science of Remembering Everything. And the reason why it's called Moonwalking with Einstein, this book is about um, Joshua's journey of going into the deep diving into the world of mental athletes. Where you do like speed card reading, see how many cards you can remember on like dex
Hmm.
cards. Where you do like whatever they have like these mental. They're mental athletes. They do like these mental Olympics basically. You can be like the U.S. Open champion of mental athletes, or of mental games and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, he was a journalist and he wanted to write like an article for something that he was doing, and he
Just
um
like my biggest bluff, right?
yeah, just like my biggest love. Yeah, and the rise of the ultra marathoners,
Uh-huh.
with Ed Harahan, Finn, and a few other ones that we've done along the way. I'm like a sucker for these books about like journalists just like going deep into a world that they don't know anything about. Anyway, so he thought that there was some like trick to this whole entire like remembering everything, and
Hmm.
he thought that these guys were either like savants or geniuses or they had some crazy tricks that they do. And what he ended up finding out was it's none of that actually. Um, what these people do is they build these. It's really who can be the most creative, and who could have the best imagination is who is the best mental athlete, and can remember the most. And that's because we think in stories, we think in time and place, we don't think in words, we don't think in numbers. So whoever can mentally lock in like a deck of cards or a particular type of card to the most imaginative thing that can come to their mind, like Moonwalking with Einstein is, an ace of spades or something like that. When you see it and you're remembering the order of a deck or something like that, that's why it's called Moonwalking with Einstein, because you see that you can visualize. Oh, I'm moonwalking with Einstein. That's how you can quickly remember Moonwalking with Einstein, ace of spades.
Hmm.
It's a way to use how humans think, to use your imagination and creativity to help you to remember and to build out these memory palaces of like you walk into your parents' house you grew up in or something like that, and you look over to the front right room that you know so well, and you see Moonwalking with Einstein going on over there, and you're like ace of spades, and like I mean these are just ways for you to quickly recall very fast, how you can be a memory champ. So Joshua did this, studied it, like started to really dedicate himself to it, and he ultimately ended up winning the United States Memory Championship. His first
Right,
time that
right,
he did
right.
it.
So
Yeah,
cool. Just like my biggest bluff. I mean, it's
right.
almost
Uh,
identical in terms of, trying a journalist going into a new space
yeah,
and become the rookie and eventually winning, right?
yeah, yeah,
To
exactly. Yeah,
to me, that's incredible.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he did retire after that. I think he said, "I don't want to like make this my life," but but yeah, he's it was pretty cool. It was a really fun story, and
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it in general. And not only did I enjoy it, like I learned so much, from this book. And one of the things that this is, like I said, this is before I gave myself the freedom to write multiple reflections per each book.
Hmm.
So I only wrote one for it. So I was thinking really, really hard. I was like, man, what do I want to write about this book? And my reflection title was, this year of magical learning is my memory palace, right? So I started off the reflection by talking about, man, if I could write anything about this book, I would, so I've been noticing lately, and especially around this time when I was writing this one, there's certain books that I read, or that I consume, or as an audiobook or whatever it may be, where I have just pages and pages and pages of notes that I take. Like, I mean, like this Think Like a Monk book that I'm reading right now is one of those that I just have, like, it's just filling up faster than I could even imagine, with like all the different ideas that are coming to my mind and things that I'm hearing and learning that I want to write down and remember and try to, store in my memory somehow. And I start to notice, like, you can see out of all the books that I read, like the ones that I learn the most from, they're just filled with pages and pages of notes. And then the ones that I don't, where there's like maybe one nugget that I pull out of it, there's literally like one thing on my reflection notes from these books, and that's why I can only write like one reflection from it. But a book like this one, these were some of the highlights that I really wanted to write about it. I put, we're all just a bundle of habits shaped by our memories. I was like, man, that's
right.
Right. Memory is really about imagination. Whoever can be the most creative and imaginative can remember the most, which, we've talked about the imagination as our superpower through this whole journey.
Right.
And like, it truly is. Like, I mean, literally, you want to remember, your world, like use your imagination and be really creative. And it's whoever can be the most creative is the one that can remember the most. Another one that I loved was monotony collapses time and novelty unfolds it. So like, learning and creating new memories.
I really get that. I really get that. It reminds me of a motion detector on a camera, right? Only when something moves is when it wakes up and it captures stuff.
Right, but everything's dark. It's just all dark out there, right?
Right. If it doesn't, like, it starts to go to sleep. Just like if we keep our eyes straight at one point, eventually that thing fades to darkness, like black. Because the eyes keep twitching. That's why it allows you. Because you only keep for a few seconds. As long as you can keep your eyes fixed at one point, like let's close one eye, right? And just keep one eye outside. Look at one point and don't move your eye. Don't blink. Don't move it. Eventually, it's gonna fade to black. Because you're like a motion detector.
It didn't go black, but it was getting close.
your eyes is twitching like this, right? That's how your eye does. That's how it tries to make sure that it changes. Because if there's no changes, it fades away.
Interesting.
So let's extrapolate that to the monotony of time, right?
Right.
You don't recall anything.
No, and not only that, it drags on like. So novelty unfolds that time, right? It makes like when you're learning shit all the time, it makes it feel like longer and more enjoyable and more like, I mean, like, we only have a limited amount of time on this earth, and I don't know. I mean, when you're bored, it's boring. Like, I mean, it feels like it just, blink your eye and it goes by, and you don't remember anything. Because
you think about, I don't want to go before we get to the end part. Basically, is your memory of your childhood and your memory of your adulthood, they are completely different timeline.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, I feel like you remember a lot more when you were a kid. Because it's all new, and it's all fun and you're learning so much, Yeah.
It's everything you do is new, but when you're an adult, you do the same freaking thing.
Not anymore. Not with the year of magical learning.
Exactly.
But you're right. Yeah. I mean, before that, it was like you could chunk 5 years at a time of my.
I mean, I spent 10, 15 years, and it seems like it was yesterday.
Right.
Because I was like, okay, what did I do?
What happened? I worked somewhere. I went to work. I came home. Yeah.
Most people, like, their resume is like, oh, I work at company A, and then maybe company B.
Right.
That's it. Right. So there's only two things. I would do the same thing every day.
Right.
You get up, you get dressed, you eat breakfast, you go to work, you do whatever, the same thing every day. I work too. I work do the same thing.
Right. For
20, 40, 50 years, until you retire at 70 something, right? And then I said, okay, what do I remember? Well, not much. I worked for one company, and I did the same thing every single day for 50 years.
Right.
So you just collapse at time.
Yeah, new stuff totally really does unfold time. I mean, because I feel like we've been doing this stuff for like a decade. I mean, I really feel like it. I mean, like
Right,
like
right.
I mean,
It's a lot because we every day we do a different books and different lessons and a different
right.
discussion, right?
And different
And
writing for
so,
me every morning, and different,
mhm,
like a different run every day, a different, workout or whatever it is. I mean, like the stuff that I do with Amelia every day, it's always new and different, and I'm trying new stuff all the time, and or a monthly challenge or whatever it is. It's all like when you're living your values and you're exploring new different ways you can live your actions, like, or
mhm.
you can live your values through actions, like it's always new and it's always fun and it's always something refreshing and new, and makes time go by a lot slower, but that's not a bad thing, because I feel like I enjoy these things
Right,
that we
because you have
do,
time. Because when you're an
right,
adult, everything is like, hey, I'm in a hurry. I'm always behind because
right,
you do the same thing every day, and it seems like yesterday when it's been 10 years.
right,
But when you're
right.
younger, it's, hey, a whole hour takes so long. You have so much time,
Man, when I
so
think of
much
my
time.
20s, like legitimately, when I legitimately think of my 20s as we're saying this right now, I can only remember basically working in a few wins that we had along the way, maybe a few promotions or something along those lines,
Hmm, hmm.
and the people that I worked with, like
Yeah,
that's about all I can remember. I mean, like
I mean,
I mean, there's a few trips that we took, whatever, like that was fun, like, and I cherish those memories, but like, but yeah, for the most part, it just feels like a big blur of working, and when I think about my time since Amelia, has entered my world, I feel like I've done more things than I've done than my entire adult life, in the past
hmm.
2.5 years, or two, I guess, yeah, a little over 2.5 years now. I mean, it's crazy, but this is not the reflection. This is why I wanted to write about these different things, right? Like this is why I wish I would have, given myself permission back then. But I guess I can always go back and do it again. But now I feel like I've, kind of missed the mark because it's not top of mind anymore. But
Right.
all right. So let me finish these last two, and then we'll get to the actual reflection. So
By the time we're done with it, we're out of time.
right. Well, to be fair, that's why I said this book was really good. There's a lot of things that I really love
Uh-huh.
about it. So another one that I wrote down that I really wanted to write a reflection about was, if remembering is human, to remember more is more human, right?
Hmm,
So
hmm.
like this is important. Like this is what we do, using our memory, using our imagination, creating stories, like remembering, like that is humanity at work, right? And if you're trying to build more memories and do more, learn more new things, and that means you're using your imagination more, and means you're being more human, which is even better. And
Hmm.
then the final one was, our brains are really good at understanding time, place, and meaning, but not necessarily like words or numbers or things like that, right? So
Because those are abstract construct that we made up.
exactly, it's using our imaginations. Like, I mean, so it all rolls back up to be really creative and use your imagination. If you're a healthy human being, your imagination is thriving. Like, I mean, that is really what I truly believe after this whole entire
Hmm.
journey. And like it's 100% crystal locked into my brain, like, stone cold lead pipe locked. Like, like this is there's not a lot of truths that I believe in, but that is one truth that I truly believe in is, human beings and our imagination is our superpower. And if you're leveraging that and trying to figure out more ways to unlock your creativity and your imagination, then you're going to be a really happy, healthy person for the most part, because it unlocks your curiosity, and unlocks questions, and unlocks, discovering the world and exploring new things and novelty and all this other great stuff, and if you're able to do that, I promise you'll have a happy life. But anyway, on to the reflection. So, so I, I paused with all these things, and I had this moment after, actually I finished this book in Hawaii back in February. So I
Mm.
remember finishing this. I was I think I was on a run in Hawaii when I finished this book, and I remember getting back, and I was just, it was just, thoughts were just percolating around in my head, and I was like, man, what a great book. And I don't know why, it just popped into my head. I was like, this year of magical learning is my memory palace. I was like, this is how I associate stories to what I learned, to lock in these memories, to understand, to truly understand, and to share it, and to help myself remember for the future. But at the same time, like, to help other people as well, you know. But as soon as I had that thought, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is Amelia and Maya's memory palace. Like, this is where her and I, you know, share our life together, our living for two together, our purpose together, you know. And this whole entire journey has been something where, I mean, I'll never forget these things. And like, I feel like I think of these things all the time now, you know, where like I'll think of something and I'll remember, you know, the reflection, and then it just like unlocks all the memory of the book, you know. Like you're talking about green lights and the art of running downhill. We were just talking about that right before this. And as I remember that, I remember this certain things that Matthew McConaughey did and then he didn't do, and then I start to remember the whole story, and it all just starts to like unfold in my head like magic, you know, because like this like one thing that I locked into on this book, you know, that I've remembered, that I, you know, I feel that story. I remember where I was when I was finishing these books. I remember what I was doing. I remember how I felt. I remember being in Hawaii when I was doing this thing, you know. I mean, like so many different memories like just flood into my head, and it reminds me of why I'm doing this, and why I'm doing this for Amelia, and how really special this journey is, and you know, doing this stuff with you and the conversations that we have, and you know, sharing this with other people, and I mean, this truly is my memory palace, you know, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really proud of this journey, and I'm really proud of you know, how Amelia and I are bringing Living for Two out into this world together, and you know, and then it made me think about my first book that I wrote, the I Can't Imagine. That was also a memory palace, but that was a memory palace that was for Amelia to share, because I'm starting to forget this stuff, you know, from I Can't Imagine, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
I as time goes on and my imagination returns even healthier and healthier, I feel good, you know, like I feel like life is special, and it has felt like that way for a long time. But like, I'm glad that I wrote that book, because even though it was really a memory palace of pain and sorrow for the most part, like I needed to share that memory, you know, palace for myself, for Amelia, for anyone else that wanted to follow along, right? But this year of magical learning is just totally different. This one's like a new memory palace, you know. I Can't Imagine's in the back, you know. This is like our new go forward memory palace. This is something that I'm proud of. I mean, I remember telling my therapist, Loretta, when we would talk, you know, every single week on Wednesdays. And I remember back when I finished the book, I Can't Imagine, the first time, and I was like, I'm not proud of this book. I was like, I mean, like, you know, like I just finished a 400-page book for my daughter, and I poured my heart and soul into it. I cried every day, like, you know, but I'm not proud of it. I'm still not proud of it. I'm not proud of it because I don't want to tell that story, and I don't want to share that story with other people. Even today, when people ask me about it and they're like, hey, I finished the book, and you know, really was inspired by it, or whatever it may be, or whatever message they share with me, I kind of don't want to talk about it. And I don't mean that because I don't want to talk about my daughter, or I'm ashamed of it. What I want to talk about is the year of magical learning, because this is Amelia and I living together. This is us taking that pain and sorrow and turning it into something that I'm proud of, and that I'm proud of to do for her. Like I wasn't proud of that. Like that was not a moment where, you know, a memory palace that I'm proud of. It is a memory palace, but I'm not proud of that one. This I am. And this makes me feel so damn good every single day when we have these conversations, and we get to share these reflections, and I get to do this writing, and it's just truly a magical journey, you know. And it's pretty awesome. So that's it. That's the reflection for the day. I know that was a lot, but you know, I'd love to get your thoughts. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's not much I can say in terms of this is your memory palace, right? And I think everybody has a memory palace. That's why, you know, the question is, what are some ways you can create your own memory palace
Right.
to tie what you are learning the meaning, you know? For me, is I love quotes and saying, right? You know, the proverbs, right?
Right.
For lack of better terms. Same thing with, you know, another term that, you know, in the green light book, in, you know, Matthew McConaughey, he called it bumper stickers.
Yeah, bumpers. Yeah, I like that.
Right. And so basically these sayings essentially is a memory palace and memory triggers.
Yeah.
So when I talk about, you know, a view must damn, right? I know what that means. Right? You
Right.
and I both know what that's mean. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a whole backstory to the saying that from one short sentence, we understand the concept and the core value that goes with it.
Right.
And as people remember things, right? These are the libraries of memories,
Yeah.
that we can go back and pull it out and get open. Because the thing is, you don't know, you sometimes you don't remember a lot of things that you like, the details, the content, right? You just know, hey, the books has this title, you pull it out, and then it triggers the details inside of the book. So when you're talking about, having your memory palace as the year of magical learning, the moment you look at this particular reflection, you knew that, where you were in Hawaii, you were doing, some kind of running, right? So these detail goes with these memory triggers and these
Right.
memory palettes, and everybody has their own, right? And for me is, I love to collect proverbs, and I love to say, and I like, sometimes I just make up my own. I mean, sometimes it doesn't make sense to anyone else, but it's only to me.
Right.
And that's fine, and that's what it's supposed to be. And I think, having, and then one of the things that you said that I really agreed is, when you can remember, like, you say something about, what was it? If memory is human, to remember more is more human, right?
Right.
And meaning that if you can have a healthy imagination, you will have a healthy mind. And healthy mind, a lot of time we talk about having a memory of a kid and memory of an adult. They're two different things. And a lot of time adult, they go into these mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dementia and all that stuff, just because they have no memory.
Yep.
Because the memory is always collapsed, right? What did I do? Well, I didn't do anything different. So your memory gets blurred. It blur into one another. So all your events collapses, and then you can't remember anymore. And then you can't remember anymore. Eventually, you lose that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is science study that backs it up. If you learn more, you have a much healthier mind in your in your old age.
Yeah, if you
This,
don't
basically,
use it, you lose it, right? I mean, it
right.
truly, like, it's a we talked about this with anti-fragile, right? I mean, like,
Right.
it really is true. Like, if you're not exercising your skills, if you're not using your imagination regularly, and somebody
Mhm.
might go like, how do you use your imagination? Well, this is how you use your imagination. You
Right.
learn something new, you write, you reflect, you grow it sparks a new thought, and it sparks another new thought, it sparks another new thought. There's no magic science to using your imagination, right? Like,
Mhm.
what you need to do is always fill your head with new things and explore new stuff, because novelty unfolds time, right? And it
Right.
makes things
And
more.
and I think that's the ingredients to becoming a healthy, when you're in your old age. But
Yeah.
the thing that kind of like occurs to me is that most of these people, when they talking about, trying to learn new things, where they do crossword puzzle, or they do some kind of a memory work problems or whatever, right? They are forced themselves to learn things. And to me, that's a big difference between learning things you really, really like,
Right.
and learning things for the sake of trying to keep your mind healthy.
Right.
And if you look at the path that Klubnik puts you on, right? You are you are chasing your dream, you're chasing yourself, you're chasing
Right.
your calling. And that always gonna be so much fun, so much excitement for you. And the learning is a byproduct of being who you really are. Like we
Right.
said before, when
Right.
you are a cheetah in a
Yeah.
classroom, you don't want to be like a sloth, right?
Right.
So trying to be like sloth, you're gonna get bored, and eventually, that's become work. But if you're a cheetah, right? If you have the capacity to run fast, right? Then you run fast. If you have the capacity to swim all day long in the river like a beaver does, then you do that, and it's
Right.
fun for the beaver. It's same thing with pigs and mud. And so when you're on the right path, is learning is a byproduct, because you want to learn. You're curious, you want to fulfill and satisfy that question do you have, right?
Right.
And so it's like trying to learn something isn't a chore. It isn't work for you if you are on the right bus.
No, it's fun.
And you
It's
know,
fun. It's
and that
fun.
and exactly. And that's another saying that you have to be on the right bus before you step on the accelerator.
Right.
To me that means that, hey, make sure you um reflect on what you want, who you are, right? What you're gonna say, and what you want to do before you start, 100% down that path.
Right.
So for me, is that having gone through the company core values quest, and knowing what I know now, right? Whatever I do every day is I'm learning every day. I'm talking to you every day. I'm discussing different concepts and lessons and reflections with you, and I learn them and I love them. I don't have to force myself to do anything,
Right.
and yet my mind is, filled with memories, filled with experiences that I don't have to work for.
Right.
It's a basically it's gravy. It's
I mean,
icing on a cake.
I mean, true. It's been almost 8 months since you and I have had a conversation. We started off when we started doing these things that was like, this will be fun. Let's just do it for like 30 minutes and we'll do our other stuff for like 30 minutes. And then slowly but surely over time, this is just like all that we do. And it'll probably be all that we do if I had to guess until we were done with this Your Magical Learning journey. And that's fine. Like, but like, I mean, it's fun because it's fun. Like it's like,
Right. I mean, and I
why
think
stress
it's
about
so
other
fun
stuff?
that
You know? Right.
I don't even thinking about the counting how many things we have done. I just say, hey,
Right.
what book are we on, right?
Right. What's next?
I don't know. Right? I just don't know because I don't count them. It never crosses my mind. Oh, I'm almost there. I'm halfway there. Whatever. I don't count them. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's the thing is, I'm just enjoying the ride, and so it's not work. And so for me, I want to make the distinction is that most people understand that, hey, you have to have a imaginative mind, a
Be
memory
a
of sort,
creator.
and learning, be creative or whatever,
You don't.
to retain your cognitive, right, capability when you're in your 80s and 90s, right?
Right.
That is what science told us. You have to be learning something. But when that fact comes out, when that study comes out, people are doing these things as a part of their chore, part of their, hey, I have to do these because I don't want to lose my memory. Oh, I
Right.
have to go read something because I don't want to. They don't want to read. They want to read for the sake of, I want to know what's in the story. They want to read because they want to
It's an
keep
outcome. It's outcome based. I mean, they're worried about not losing their memory. Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's like working for money.
Right. Exactly. It's
Right.
all outcome based.
So it's like, do you work because you love to work and because of money, or just working for money? So when you say I'm reading the book, not for the content, but for the outcome, which is essentially for money. So
Right.
you think about, we talked about this before, majority of the people hates a job. Okay. I think that's safe to say.
I agree. Even if they may lie to themselves and say, no, I really like what I do.
There's a few people,
Sure.
there's a few small percentage of people who do, but I'm gonna say majority of people.
Right.
Yeah, majority of people hate the job because they are trading their time for money. They are reading the book for the outcome. They're not reading book for the sake of the stories and the curiosity of the content of the book itself. If they're reading it for the outcome, they are going to work not because they love to work, it's because they need the money.
Right.
I mean, tell me I'm wrong, right?
No, you're not.
Most people, they go to work because they need the money. If you tell them, okay, you don't have to work. Well, ask people, okay, what would you do if you won the lottery? You still work there?
Well, this reminds me of do you remember the movie Office Space? When he's like, when he goes, hey, what would you do if you won $1 million? He's like, well, I'd do nothing. He goes, well, man, you don't need $1 million to do nothing. Look at my cousin; he's broke, don't do shit. Like, it's totally true. I mean, you don't need $1 million to do nothing. If you don't want to do anything, don't do anything. But that's not what you want. That's not what you want to do. Something that you like. Like that's really what you want. And that's what we all want. Is we want to feel like what we do is us expressing deep down inside. What's inside of us. And bringing us out and sharing it with the world. It's I mean, that's called living your purpose, and that's why it's so powerful. I can't wait for you to read this Think Like a Monk book, because like, I swear to you, the reason why I'm like so loving this book is we basically designed Clubany like we're monks. I mean, and we didn't mean to. I mean, like, but this is from us, our own reading, from our own, stuff that we've done for ourselves, our own exploration, our own questions. Like, almost everything that this guy is talking about, like what it's like to go to like monk school, basically, is basically like what we've kind of put together. And I'm like, holy shit! I was like, what? Like, this is it's kind of blowing my mind, actually. Where I'm like, this is kind of trippy. I mean, like, a lot of the stuff that we do, a lot of the ways that we live our life, a lot of the intentionality behind, our values and our purpose, and challenging ourselves and do different things. Like, I mean, these are all things that like monks have done for forever and ever and ever in perpetuity. And by all means, like, the word monk, like, puts this weird spin on it where you're like, oh, well, you're a monk, like, that's not, you could be a monk in real life, like, you could like, it does, you don't have to go to the mountains of the world, and go to some retreat for 10 years of your life to go live these principles, and to have a healthy, happy memory, and to have a functioning imagination, and challenging your brain and doing the things you like to do. Like, that's the whole goal of Clubany, is to make that a reality for people in the here and now, in the present, in the modern world, and I think that we're onto something really cool here. And it all starts with really helping the people to unlock their imaginations, right, and use their creativity, and to be a healthy human. Like, so I just finished a book a couple weeks ago. It's called David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, and I won't spoil the reflection, because I wrote a 2-part reflection on that one. But he asked this question, and a lot of that book was around, you're forced, you have a disadvantage in some way, shape, or form, and you're forced, because of that disadvantage, to think differently, right? And he asked this question that like really captivated my mind, was like, are you desperate enough to think differently? And as I was reflecting about that question, I actually flipped it around in my own head. It's like, are you healthy enough to be curious? Like, is really what it is, because you shouldn't be desperate. Like, you know what desperate comes from? An atomic bomb.
Right.
But like,
Right.
but you know what a healthy memory palace and Moonwalking with Einstein comes from? Just being a healthy, happy human being.
I love
you can
it.
still be that today, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that reversal. I love it, just because because for me, it's like, I've always trying to convince you of, you can have all the good things without going through pain.
So like, here's okay. So like, this could be like you're opening up a Pandora's box between the two of us. Like I totally get that.
You're coming over to my side. That's right. That's what I'm hearing. Great. I love that. Chris is finally entering the true world.
Right. It's still it's hard. It's really hard to get people to go down this journey, which is why it's also probably really hard to convince somebody to become a monk when they're just a healthy person. And they're like, yeah, why do I want to do that? I don't want to do that. Like, but there's a lot of fun that can come out of it, and a lot of novelty, and a lot of new learnings, and a lot of adventure, and a lot of purpose, they can be generated from going down this journey. You're on your own when you're still happy and healthy to a certain extent, right?
But if you think about it, if you take a healthy person and say, turn him to a monk, right? What would that person do, and what would he feel and experience, versus a desperate person and turn him to a monk, right? They're both monk, but I would bet you they have completely two different experiences and completely two different perspectives. The
100%.
People who are really from a desperate side of things become more desperate. I guarantee you, because that's all they do. Say, I'm becoming a monk. I cannot be distracted by anything else.
Yeah, this is my problem solving. This is my solution to my problem of being desperate. Is I'm going to become a monk. Like, I'm going to swing the pendulum from all the way back here to all the way over to here. And like, but that swing isn't sustainable.
Maybe I'm missing something though. But when you are, let's say you have a tragedy, right, an atomic bomb, and you want to become a monk, right? How does that fixes that?
It doesn't. I'm not saying that it
Exactly.
does. I'm saying
My
that
point is,
you're swinging from all you're doing is just swinging violently from one end to the other end, and it'll eventually swing back. You know,
right, because even if you become a monk, you still live with that
you haven't fixed
memory.
it. Right.
You haven't fixed anything.
Right. Right. You're never gonna fix
And
it, but like you haven't. You're just all you're doing is running away. Like at that point.
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
You're not solving the problem.
Right.
So
Yes.
becoming a monk when you're desperate, you're not solving the problem. When you become a monk, when you are healthy, you actually have a different chapter in your life. Just like in Green Light, right? You're looking at the guy who is, really, is enjoying his life, going to an exchange program to Australia, right? This is where he learns to reflect and understand and think for himself.
Does some monk shit. He did some monk shit out
there. He
there.
does some monk shit, and then that makes him better.
Right.
That makes him better when he came back.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about a person who comes from an atomic bomb, a tragedy, and you make him to a monk, all he does is thinks about his tragedy all day long.
Yeah, no,
there's nothing to distract him from doing it. I mean, become a monk. Okay, what do monks do? Right? Monk do is say, I'm going to find myself. Well, the only thing I see is the rubble of the aftermath of the atomic bomb. The only thing I see is me crying every day.
Right.
It actually makes it worse. So you should not become a monk from the desperate side. You have to come from the healthy side. That's why I really like the reversal that you did.
Right.
Because it actually adds on when you get to it. But if you do from the other side, it actually adds on to the negative side.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a compound effect, right?
I couldn't agree more, and that's why, like when I think of Clubany, like I want to help people that want to be healthy enough to be curious, right? Like that's what I want. But I don't want people coming into Clubany
we can't
that are desperate.
Anyone,
exactly.
Right?
I can't solve. You can't solve anybody in Clubany can't solve somebody that just lost a child's mindset in life. I can't. Like, I mean, there's nothing that I can do. That is your journey, and that is something that you're gonna have to fight through, and you're gonna have to fight through on your own. Even somebody that can literally, say, I've done the exact same thing that happened to you. It's not the same thing. It's never gonna be the same thing. The circumstances are never, ever, ever gonna or they're unique to your own, right? Like, and you have to fight through the rubble of your own life. And you can certainly need a community to help with that. Like, and I'll be there to talk to you. But like, I don't think that you're ready to like talk about using your imagination as your superpower when you're just struggling to get out of bed every single day. Like, that's almost offensive.
Because that superpower becomes a kryptonite.
Exactly. It's like offensive. Like, I mean, it's like fuck you. Don't tell me to to use my imagination right now when all I can think about is like watching my daughter being held by my wife, taking her last breath. That's I'm locked into that, man. Like, and like for you to even pretend,
and all it does, it intensifies it.
Exactly. I would get angry. I mean, I would just get angry and be like, you're just stupid. Like, I don't want to talk to you. And to be fair, like, that's not what we're trying to do with Clubany, right? We're trying to help people that are in a spot in their life where the monotony has gotten to them, and they're just like, look, like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know that I don't want to do this, and I want to go find what I want to do while I'm still healthy and happy and have time, and I want to maximize my time, right? Like, that's what we can help with most, right? And to your point, like, we're not trying to help people that had an atomic bomb dropped on them, and that's why I don't really like that idea of are you desperate enough to think differently? Like, that's not who we want to invite into Clubany. Like, I don't want desperate people into Clubany. Not that I don't want to help them. I don't think that we can help them.
Right. We can only help you when you're already on the recovery. I mean, you are found who you are, and we can help you become more of it. We cannot change you. We can only help you become more of what you want and who you are. We cannot change you. We cannot say, hey, you turn around. We say, well, we're on the same path. Let's go together. That's all we can do. I'm not gonna tell anyone to turn around. If I cross street with you, if I cross path with you, if you're going to opposite side, I'm not gonna tell you to turn around, because I mean, I don't know where you're going. But if you're on the same path, right, we can go together. that's what I imagine when I think of company. Company is about helping you become more of yourself, helping you become more human, right?
Right.
If remembering is human, you know, remember more is more human.
No, I really do love that. I don't actually know how we got down this topic, but either way, it's always a fun, you know, adventure on these conversations. So I'm actually gonna say, like, let's put a pin on this one because like
Yes.
this is one of my favorite personal like reflections that I'm gonna always remember this book and this because it brought me to think about this whole journey even more uniquely and differently. You know, but like I really do love this book. I would recommend it to anybody, and you know, check it out and start building your own memory palace. You know, write
Yeah.
your own stuff. Go learn your own new things, and lock in those adventures in your mind so you can always recall them and keep building on it. So we can leave you with the question of what are some ways that you can create your own memory palace to tie what you're learning. That should be your, not you, are learning to Mimi. So I just noticed that. There's a lot of work that needs to be done editing this thing still. So, but all right, thanks
No
for
biggie.
joining, and yeah, looking forward to the conversation tomorrow as always.
Yep. We'll see you next time. Good night.
That was a fun one.
Hold on.